Aloha, everybody. My name is Antonio, and I am definitely an alcoholic. It's difficult to know where to begin a story like this because it's my first time doing this. So I did what I always do. I set down guidelines and I made an Excel document, a spreadsheet for my soul. So here we go. First, I do have rules. I have boundaries now, thanks to this room. Number one, going to be humble, never act humble. Number two, going to behave as a perpetual newcomer. Number three, I'm here to be heard and understood. That's it. Number four, ego is a double edged tool. Number five, I have to be patient with my perceptions. Number six, I'm here for fellowship without judgment. Number seven, I'm just looking for spiritual growth and service. Um, so, in introduction, I'm an alcoholic. My name's Antonio Thomas. I'm 122 days sober now. I'm a hardcore alcoholic, in my opinion. Funny thing though, I was never really a drinker. I found marijuana in the seventh grade. My journey, my battle against alcohol began on June 5th of 2005. That's when the war began. That's when I had to put down marijuana and pick up the bottle because I joined the United States Marine Corps on that day. And that struggle lasted until June 15th of 2013. That's when the retreat began. That's when I got out of the military and had to deal with my alcoholism without the support structure that they had in place. So I did that from 2013 until September 11th of 2024 when I hit my physical bottle, a physical bottle. November 1st of 2024, thank God, I found a new spiritual family and I began my true journey of sobriety. But I want to start off by explaining what aloha is, because I say it all the time, and it's real meaning. A lot of people think aloha just means hello or goodbye, but it goes so much deeper than that. Aloha is a way of life. It's so difficult to explain. I'm not going to spend the time trying to here. I'm going to just get into my timeline. I had trouble finding parts in my life that would help paint a picture of who I am. So instead, I just did it Barney Rubble style, year by year. So, with your patience, please. Here we go. I will make this quick. Uh, what life was like then. I chose to do this in the style of the good, the bad, and the ugly because I love that movie. So for every year, I picked a good thing. Every year, I picked a bad thing, and every year, I picked the ugly truth. The ugly truth from that year. So 1979. My grandmother's tears are what saved my life. My mother didn't want me. My grandmother cried and cried, cried and cried, and begged her to keep me. And my mother changed her mind and she kept me. I was conceived in love, but after that, it's kind of complicated. That's the bad. The ugly truth. My single mother did not want two kids at 24. Neither one of the fathers were in her life. I turned one, 1980. The laundry basket. I used to play under it. Believe it or not, it's sitting right there. It was one, and I played under a laundry basket while my mother and my grandmother folded clothes. I still have it. It's sitting right over there. And milk bottles. I remember loving milk bottles, drinking juice from milk bottles. The bad. I had very early memories of molestation. Um, I have phalluses put into my mouth. I remember that. I remember seeing someone commit suicide in the corner. I didn't know what a gun was. I didn't know what the flash was. I didn't even know what anything was. But later on, I was told, yeah, that was my uncle, Reginald, committed suicide. I was in a stroller or something, and I saw that. I was one, and somehow I remember that. I looked it up. It's possible. I don't know how. 1981, I turned two. I was baptized. I started talking and laughing very often. I was very happy, baby. The bad thing, I was put in the bathtub with my brother. That was a very bad thing. Um, ugly truth, I was molested and neglected from a very young age. I turned 3 in 1982. I found the world outside in the dirt. My best friends, my first friends were bugs. And then that went to dogs and cats. The bad, my brother drowned and he died. But they were able to bring him back to life. But he returned completely broken. He had multiple seizures, couldn't use his body, wheelchair, all of that. Um, so the ugly truth was I had to re-raise my older brother and still be neglected. I was at 3 years old. 4 years old, 1983, preschool at the park. There's a park that I discovered all those bugs, my first friends in. Or on the other side of that park was a preschool. That's where I started that. And it was like a lot of snacks and facts, you know. But the bad thing is something happened and I stopped talking for a whole year. They had to send me to see specialists and doctors a whole year. I just didn't talk. The ugly truth, my brother recovered, well, was totally different. He was never the same after that. I was 5. 1984, started kindergarten with Miss Hebert and Miss Sanchez. I remember even then I was so smart that they put me on Miss Sanchez's side of kindergarten because they wanted me to learn Spanish. I already knew my words, my letters, and my numbers. I started learning Spanish in kindergarten, believe it or not. The bad part of that though was I had mental health treatment got me talking again. Yeah. Difficult mental health treatment got me talking again after that year of not being able to talk. I don't know why. The ugly truth, I started school late with trauma and neglect because I had to spend a year learning how to talk again. 1985, I was 6 years old, started first grade with Miss Sarpy. And I was so smart again, they had me tutoring Danny over in a corner because Danny didn't even really know his ABCs. But I remember there was this kid, Gideon. That was back when you could still beat kids in class if your parents gave them permission. And Miss Sarpy used to just beat the shit out of this kid named Gideon. I just couldn't understand that. Um, but the bad part of that year, I made a sexual advance towards my brother in the tub. You know, I was only 6 years old, and I had been made to understand that that was the perfect thing to do. The ugly truth, he told my mother about it as if I were the one who was at fault. Like, so after that, I got treated like the little gay weirdo. I turned 7, 1986, second grade with Miss S. Cloven. She ain't like me one little bit. The bad part, I began to experiment with sexuality on my own. I'll just let your mind walk with that one. The ugly truth, I met my first girlfriend in Nevada, but I didn't know if I was straight, gay, or whatever. 1987, I turned 8, third grade with Miss Lavelle. I joined magnet class. They figured out I was a smart kid, put me in different classes. My aunt Gwen died though, resting in peace. I love her. She was my grandmother's sister. She was the first person who I saw that could talk to my grandmother as a peer, because my grandmother was like the female version of me, an absolute lion. And my aunt Gwen was a fuck up. She was a drunk. She couldn't hold down nothing. Kids, all that disaster, but I loved her, you know, because I was only 8. I learned very early to love people, not problems. To love the person, not their problems. At 9 years old, I turned 988. 1988, I turned 9 years old. Fourth grade with Miss Lavelle. Again, magnet class. My great grandmother, Emma Lou Packer, died. May she rest in peace. What's significant about her is that she was the first person I ever saw yell at my grandmother and get away with it. Of course, I didn't understand at the time. It's my great grandma. You know, that's her daughter. But just most people who like yelled at my grandmother or my mother, they just got a gun pulled on them. But what I love about her, one day in Texas in her backyard, I was sitting on an anthill. I didn't know any better. I was from California, first time in Dallas. It was an anthill. I just thought it was a mound of dirt. I was just playing, just chilling, you know. And before I know it, I'm covered in ants. So my great grandmother ran outside. Nobody had seen her run in forever. Ran outside, snatched me up, stripped all my clothes off, and slapped me down on her ironing board and started slathering snuff, dip snuff, and all kind of motions and lotions and potions from her kitchen all over me, and was screaming at my grandmother and my mother like they wouldn't shit. I had never seen anything like that before. Like I said, most people would die if they try to do something like that. But, the the ugly truth about that year is the family matriarch knew my heart. I'm her legacy, my great grandmother. She knew my heart. That's why she yelled at my grandmother and my mother like that. She knew that I was the first boy in the family that seemed like he had some potential. And she was right. I'm her legacy. I'm the last of the Mohicans now. Fifth grade with Miss Fleming, also Magnet class. My uncle Larry died. May he rest in peace. Just like my aunt. You know, he's another fuck up that I loved. I learned very early on from that how people can judge others. You know, just even after he died, they were shitting on him. But he taught me to knock it out. It was something I was in the backyard trying to do, and I was crying over it, feeling sorry for myself. He came out there, he was laughing. He's like, "Hey, Tony, you know you want to get back to playing? All you got to do is just get it done, just knock it out." And it flipped a switch in my head. Like, he right. I've been sitting here for hours just crying, boo-hooing. I could have been done already. He taught me that. Knock it out. I'm trying to keep on track here. Sixth grade, Miss Fleming again, magnet class. That's the only diploma that I ever got, though. That's the bad thing about that year. That was my last graduation I ever had. In my speech, I told the whole crowd, because I think I graduated like second in my class, told the whole crowd that my dream was to go to Hawaii, be an astronaut, and fall in love. Well, I got two out of the three. I got stationed in Hawaii by the Marine Corps, and I fell in love with the love of my life, Desiree Thomas. But I didn't get to be an astronaut. Still working on that one. Let me see. After this day, my education was left up to me. So I got my sixth grade diploma after that. Nobody really gave a shit. 12 years old, 1991, I IQ tested at some facility, and they said my IQ was 148 at 12 years old. And the schools all wanted me to attend for junior high. I started junior high at Adams, though. It was a school in the hood in LA. And that's where I got introduced to marijuana and therefore addiction. And after that, it was just a struggle. You know, weed was my outlet for everything. Um, but the ugly truth, the bus gave me new legs, but I had no guidance. You know, I can get on a bus now. I can go to junior high now. I got a bus pass now. I got some independence, you know, but I just was ditching school left and right. 1992, I turned 13. My second, whoa, I skipped something. But anyway, 1992, I turned 13. My second girlfriend, Miss Giovanna, first girl I fell in love with. I was 13 years old. The bad, I learned how far I was willing to go for love because she lived in a Crip hood, notorious Crip hood. Where I lived on 8th and Avalon in South Central LA, that was a notorious blood hood. They were called the Swans. Within Blood Gang, they were already notorious. So, but Giovanna lived in a notorious Crip hood on 43rd and Central, Folk Trade Gangster Crip. So, Blood Hood guy coming to see his girlfriend who lives in the Crip hood. And mind you, I was 13 at the time. So it took a lot of heart. You know, I got questioned by OGs as soon as I hit the block. Who are you? Why are you here? It was crazy. Um, but once they saw in my eyes that I wasn't going away, that I was gonna keep coming, that it was love that was driving me, they actually gave me a pass. I wasn't even a gangster, but they were about to not let me go see my own girlfriend because of where I lived. Um, try not to get lost here. So I turned 14, 1993. I found independence and strength. I got my first job at 14. I was going around with this old man who had a bunch of other kids, and we were cleaning out dead people's houses, like furniture, paperwork, clothes, dirty clothes, food in the refrigerators, everything you could imagine. The worst things that you can imagine. but at 14, that was my first child. The bad part of that year was the night of the abduction. I came home from school slash work one night, and I was laying in bed, and I was 14. And again, I had been experimenting sexually. My dad had came out of nowhere to visit for some reason, and when him and my mom were together, it was always bad. So they got drunk that night, and she knew that I was doing something, that it was something weird about me, maybe a little gay about me that wasn't tolerated back then. The first time they found me behind the sheds with a girl, they were so surprised that they went to the left and to the right, rounded up all the neighbors, and had them waiting for me to clap when me and this little girl came from behind the shed because they just knew I was gay. But anyway, so they got drunk that night. I got home from a rough day of school and work, and they decided they were going to come snatch me out of my bunk bed, the top bunk, as my brother in the bottom bunk was sleeping. She dug her nails into me so hard, into my back, that it left scars. I was bleeding already. And my father was standing there, and I saw him. I knew I was really in trouble because just her snatching me up like that, when that happens, it's over. But him being there, it's like, oh man, okay, here we go. Here we go. So they dragged me by the hair and by my clothes into her bedroom, and they locked the door. And she's punching me and slapping me the whole time. And the first thing she does, she locks the door and she puts me in some handcuffs. And she pulls my hair, she starts screaming at me, with her pistol to the back of my head. Who did it? And I look over in the corner, I'm already crying. I see my dad posing there next to a can of Coors Light with it must have been a 45, but it was a revolver, tapping his chest with it. She's screaming, who did it? He's standing there, tapping his chest, looking at me with a smile on his face. I don't know what the hell is going on. Remember, I'm 14. So, I didn't want to answer because it was my brother. I didn't want them to go out there and kill my brother. Um, so I lied, and I screamed and I told all the stories and I cried. I begged for mercy and all that, but she wasn't buying it. She knew better. So now she started punching me, knocking the wind out of me and yanking my hair. Just whatever. So eventually I lied and told them that it was Damien, the other little kid down the street. Me and him would, go and hide and play with each other because neither one of us, we had both been molested. We didn't know any better. So I just blamed him. I know they couldn't go and shoot a kid. So that was my way of getting out of that situation. So they hugged me and they came over. Hey, we were just trying to get the truth out of you. We know something is wrong. We're sorry. La la la. They loved me and they hugged me and there was tears and I was crying and they were crying. And then it was like, all right, I played it off just well enough to get them to let me go back to bed. Let them think that I was just going back to bed. So I went, laid in the bed, and they were like, did all the crying. They went back to their drinking, and I guess they figured they had solved the problem. But really, I was plotting. I was laying there plotting because I had already been getting beat and neglected and ignored and cheated. Anyway, you get it. So what I did while after my brother went back to sleep, see, he was standing at the door, banging on the door because he was scared. I don't know if he was scared for me or scared for himself, but he went back to sleep, make sure he was asleep, and I quietly got out of bed. I snuck into my little closet. I got my little backpack that I took to school. And I kept checking on him and checking on them, making sure they didn't hear me. And I quietly started packing all the little things that were special to me, all my little toys that I love, the little books that I love. I loved Calvin and Hobbies. So I packed all of those and all my little toys. I had a little Transformer watch, the old school Transformer watches that transform. So everything I cared about, I put in that backpack. And then just real quietly, before anybody could wake up, I got some food. I packed it in there and I slid open my back door and I crawled out. And I don't even know how I heard about it, but it was this place called Angel's Flight. But all I had to do was call them, and this guy named Ron, he drove from wherever it was all through the day and picked me up. And so yeah, man, let me get back to this. So yeah, Angel's Flight. I was 15, and my first time being relatively independent. So the bad part about that though is that I ended up at LAYN um, because I rebelled. I didn't want to stay at Angel's Flight. I wanted to go home. I missed my mother. So I ended up at LAYN, LA Youth Network. Anybody knows that's a horrible place. But that was the first time that I began to really feel abandonment. Like, damn, it's on me. I'm 15 years old. I got to do this myself. But the ugly truth, if I mention what happened to the people at that place, either of those places, my whole family would have been in jail. My father, my mother, and my brother, they would all been in jail. And they would have sent me to a foster home. So I had to harbor that secret for forever. Y'all are the first people I'm telling this, other than professionals. Um, so later on, I returned at 16 to what I thought was a new and loving home. But the bad thing about that year is I missed an entire year of school and family. The ugly truth, I returned filthy and exhausted because I went from Angels Flight to LAYN to ultimately Skid Row. Skid Row in LA for a child, let alone an adult, a child is just bad. I returned home completely filthy, completely nasty, funky. 16, I was exhausted from lack of sleep. I hadn't been eating. I was bony, just living on Skid Row. But all I was doing was smoking weed. But oh my God. So at 17, I enrolled in Poly High by exam. I still don't know how I got in that school. It was a good school, but they let me take some kind of test, and I was able to get into Polytechnic High School in Long Beach, California. Bad thing about that year was my mother had gotten married while I was gone, and I didn't even know who this guy was. He just some boyfriend that she had been seeing. I had known boyfriends before, but I guess she picked one to marry. So I didn't really know this guy, but now they're married. Now we're all living in Long Beach. So I'm in Poly. I was caught ditching school though. I was caught smoking weed. Again, I was 17 back then. It was heavily illegal. Like you're going to jail if they catch you with a roach. Illegal. So that's what happened. And my parents, they I don't know why, but they wanted me incarcerated for that. He's like, all right, it's time for you to learn your lesson. You're gonna go to jail. Either you go to prison or you're going to live with your dad. Well, my dad liked to punch me and knock my wind out in front of people, and he liked embarrassing me, slapping the. He would lick his hand and slap the shit out of me in public, and he liked pulling guns on people. You get where I'm going. So I wasn't gonna go live with my dad, and I take pride in this. I probably shouldn't, but at 17, I did a pivot. They thought I was gonna cry and say, no, no, please, fine, I'll go live with my dad. No, I did a pivot and walked back into the jail. And the judge even looked at me like, because we had been talking about this. He's like, hey, man, that's up to you. You can either go home with your dad or you can go back to jail, but that's your options right now. I went back to jail, and I'm glad that I did that. All right, so from prison, they don't keep you if you're not an actual criminal. I got caught with a roach ditching school behind some random apartment smoking. That's all I did. But my parents were all crazy about getting me in prison. So they like pretty much told the judge to put me in prison. Um, so me and the judge were able to work out like a side deal because he knew that they were full of shit. And I told him a few of the things that they did to me. And that's why he gave me that choice. But anyway, I digress. I ended up at a place called Diamond Ale Ranch because again, prisons don't keep you if you're actually a good kid who just happened to fuck up. And at Diamond Ale Ranch, it was ran by a woman, wonderful woman. She could have been a Tyler Perry character. Her name was Nola, and she took no shit, but in the most loving way, if that makes any sense. Like Diamond Ale Ranch, it could have been a sitcom. So I turned 18 there, and the ugly truth about that year is I returned for the second time to a new home, but still no plan whatsoever on how to reintegrate into a family that I've been struggling to be a part of. So I turned 19. 1998, I posted that picture on our Telegram. 1998 was the actual year when we took our last picture together after I came back home. And that was in Long Beach. Me, my brother, my mother, my grandmother, and my grandfather. And we spent our last holidays together that year as a family. I took having a family for granted And I'm really sorry about that. I wasted a lot of time. The next year, I turned 20. Uh, the bond between us, me, my mother, and my brother became much stronger because when I was 20, both my grandmother and my grandfather both died same year. So they were the glue that was holding us together. So now without them, me, my mother, and my brother, we really had to look at each other like we were siblings almost. Like, who are you? Like, my mom actually had to be Big Mama. Yeah, she was always Mama, but now she had to be Big Mama. I could see the fear in her eyes. I could see it. It's like now she's responsible for all the photo albums, all the phone books, all the heirlooms, and the future of the whole family rested on her for the first time. So I could see the fear in her eyes. And then me and my brother were afraid now because who gonna hold mama accountable? Damn, grandma gone now. Oh man, we gotta be careful. Shit, like the whole dynamic changed. I hope I'm not being too long, but I want to say rest in peace to Miss Delta and Mr. Clifford Curtis. Oh my God, I wouldn't be the man that I managed to make it to be if it wouldn't have been for those two wonderful examples of American patriotic, black steeped in Baptist love. You know, the church was named Carver, and that's where I got baptized in LA. It's still there. I'm gonna go back one day. But we never had to learn to love each other. They did that for us. So me and my mother and my brother, we never really had to love each other because our grandparents took care of that. They had all the love that we needed. We could mistreat each other and neglect each other as long as they were there to bring us back together. The year 2000, the bond between me and my mother became even stronger for the same reason because in the year 2000, my brother died. So the very next year, my brother died. So now me and my mother are looking at each other. We don't have that third individual who, like, I pretty much raised him. I pushed his wheelchair. I taught him how to ride a bike, taught him how to write. He had to learn with his left hand, taught him how to do. I taught him everything, taught him how to walk, how to talk. My big brother. And my mother, she pretty much had to raise another baby. So it was just once he was gone, me and her were sitting on her bed looking at each other, and we were both shaking our heads like, what's God gonna do to us next? So again, me and her had to come together. Oh my God. Me and her, we got so close, we started smoking weed together. We started smoking weed together. I still didn't drink at the time. That was her thing, her and my dad's thing. But, I would sip a little bit, but no, we smoked a lot of weed after my brother died, me and my mom. So the next year I was 22, 2001. I moved into my first place. So that's a good thing. But the bad news, the next year I was 22, 2001. I moved into my first place, but it was my brother's apartment. So I'm blessed, but it was a curse. I don't know who I would have been if he hadn't died because I didn't even I didn't even get to be on my own. Who knows what? Anyway, oh my God. 2002, I was 23. I got engaged and moved my fiance into my apartment. It was wonderful. But bad news, 2002, I was 23. I got engaged and moved my fiance into my apartment. That was a bad idea. I didn't give myself any time to mature as a man, to live alone, you know, just that experience. I didn't have that. I was too quick to move somebody in because I was so alone, so lonely. I wanted to be a husband. I wanted to be a father. I wanted to be what I didn't have as soon as possible. So the next year, I was 24, 2003. I got the job at Rollerflex. Incredible job. My first real gig that could have been a career. That year, I got my first car. I was 24. I had my first real taste of freedom. I had my first life at 24. But the company was closing, and I had no plans for our future. That was the plan. I finally got a good career. Now I can have a woman. Started making plans for kids. Now you're gonna tell me the company's closing? Oh man, I started panicking. I got rent to pay and all that. That job was a blessing, but the ugly truth, it was just the way for me to learn my real potential. I couldn't stay there anyway. The owner of the place was smoking ice. He was driving a Ferrari, but he smoked ice. Real cool guy from Hawaii named Val. Not gonna say his last name, but he was cool. He was super cool. I turned 25 in 2004. Started working at El Pollo Loco with my fiance. This place called the Dome. Me and my fiance, we used to hang out there before we even became boyfriend and girlfriend. Matter of fact, everybody that I grew up with in Long Beach hanged out at the Dome. It was just my friend Dave's bedroom. His poor mom, she had to listen to just years and years of hip hop and real bad freestyle rapping and all kind of bag battles and yo mama this, yo mama that, and just the weed smoke, weed smoke, weed smoke, weed smoke, weed smoke. And this poor lady had issues with her lungs and was overweight. So I have to make amends to Miss Johnson. Miss Johnson, I am sorry. I am so sorry because I was grown. I was old enough to know better, but that's all we did in the Dome was just rap and fuss and smoke weed and fuck. And not gonna get into that. That's a whole nother share right there. Oh my God, the Dome. And somewhere along those lines, I saw a United States Marine Corps commercial. So keep in mind, yeah, I'm 25 at the time. It's like, it ain't too late for me to do that kind of shit. Maybe. So I'm still thinking. It's 2005, 2004. I'm still thinking at that point. So the bad thing about that year, I was working at El Pollo Loco, and the Dome closed, and I saw a United States Marine Corps commercial. So it's a good thing that the Dome closed because I had to grow up finally. It was a good thing having a job at El Pollo Loco because my other company shut down. And it was a good thing seeing that Marine Corps commercial because, hey, but at the same time, it was a bad thing because I was working at El Pollo fucking Loco and the Dome is closed now. Where do I go? What do I do? And then now I'm poor, broken, lonely, just like everybody else who sees that Marine Corps recruiting commercial. So of course, yeah, I did it. Like I wish I had family with money, is what I'm trying to say, because I never did that. I went to college or something. But anyway, uh, so me and my wife wasted years of our lives in the Dome, just years. I think that may be why I did that to kind of try to quickly make up for all those lost years, and frankly, it worked. Checking the time. Damn. 2005, I joined the Marine Corps. The best thing I ever did, but I had no support. Joining the United States Marine Corps was the worst thing I ever did because I had no support. 2006, I had to flee with a new wife and a new life. But the bad thing, I had no idea what the hell I was doing, and I made every mistake. 2007, I was 28. I became a corporal, I became a leader, and a father figure to hundreds of young Americans, maybe somebody in your family. I'm not kidding. But the bad thing, I became a corporal, I became a leader, and a father figure on top of everything else I got to deal with now. 2008, I turned 29, Iraq deployment. I finally getting what I asked for. I wanted to go over there and defend America, get some. Part of the reason why I joined was September 11th. Now I get to finally go and get some back. So I got what I asked for. But the bad thing, I returned to a world that I didn't know anymore. 2009, I turned 30. I became a sergeant. I went to J school. Real big deal. That's why they teach you how to operate cranes and all of that. So it's like the next level from just forklifts. But the bad thing, I became a mentor. The separation caused infidelity like that. Like it was just the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I can't tell you how long I was gone up to that point. But yeah, they go cheat. They go cheat. If you're gone all the time, they go cheat. So it's nothing against her. I was gone all the time. 2010, I turned 31. That was the Afghanistan deployment. And that's the time when I got what I deserved. I went over there, to find what I was asking for in Iraq. With Afghanistan, I ended up getting what I deserved. Um, I got a NAM, a Navy Achievement Medal, but at the same time, Afghanistan was not. I'm not gonna get into that. It was really really bad. I thought Iraq was bad until I went to Afghanistan. Put it like that. But I finally got my first personal medal out of that. But I started dropping my pack. after that, to be completely honest. 2011, I turned 32. I returned to a world that was full of opportunity, but I returned to a world that I didn't like anymore after Afghanistan. So it went from I don't know what this world is to now I don't even like it. But the Marine Corps offered me a recruiting package, but secretly I was done. I told them, yeah, thank you. I'll think about it, but I was done. 2012, I turned 33. I became a platoon sergeant. So that means I'm the boss now. That's a huge deal in the Marine Corps when you're a platoon sergeant. That means you're daddy. It means you know everything in your MOS. You know your whole shop. You know everybody. Everybody know you. Somebody asks you a question, you can make a phone call and solve it. I literally became that guy. Wow, that's a huge deal. Um, but the bad thing is, I became platoon sergeant. So I'm daddy now. I'm the boss now. So even more separation, more infidelity. 2013, I turned 34. I hit my EAS. That's inactive service. It was truly a blessing. So it was my chance for freedom and independence. But the bad thing is, it was my chance for freedom and independence. That wasn't what I needed. No. Ultimately, I wish that I did my dub, my whole 20. That's what they call it, doing your dub. Because my heart was in it, but my soul, my spirit, my mind was just, my body was just broken. Let me see, 2014, I turned 35. I had a new lease with my wife as a civilian now, a veteran. I'm attending a new college with my GI Bill. I got new friends, new habits. But again, you know where this is going. Bad news. Now I got a new lease. Now I got to worry about college. Now I got to make all new friends, and I got all these new habits that I got to learn because I'm no longer in the military. Um, yeah, I wasted my first year learning to pee without permission. 2015, I got a new job. We got a new apartment. I started the HPU, Hawaii Pacific University Black Student Union, just from the ground up. Nobody told me to do it. I just did it. And it was very successful. I started working over at NextCom, that's Navy Exchange. It's like the mall for the Navy here in Hawaii. And I was doing volunteer work every weekend at the Arizona Memorial, which I can see right here, where I was a docent. That was the guy who introduced students. They didn't pay me, it was volunteer work. It's kind of, they want you to do that for your degree, but I just did it because I'm a patriot and I just love America. It was my chance to show that. But I did that every weekend, and it was awesome. They called me Swampling because I always had these swamp boots that I wore because I didn't want my nice shoes getting wet. But 2015, I turned 36, and like I said, I had a new job, new apartment. But I was trying to prove to everyone that I was still Sergeant T, that I was still the man, that I was still a platoon sergeant. That was a huge mistake. 2016, I turned 37. We finally got to see the island, and I sat down like actual roots. This is where I live now. Um, but my binge drinking began, and I was not taking care of myself at all. I thought everything was fine, but everything was fucked. Um, the honest truth, there was a lack of guidelines and accountability that left me completely lost. Almost done. 2017, I turned 38. I resigned from everything, my jobs, the Arizona Memorial, dropped out of school. I took time to try to heal. That's what the VA told me to do. You're doing too many things. So I cut everything off. But I lost my guidelines and the social connections, what little I had. So that forced me into this isolation that I had never experienced before. Ugly truth, I needed intensive mental, physical, and spiritual therapy. I just didn't know it yet. I was running on fumes. 2018, I turned 39, and I was forced to look in the mirror. I had to learn to be alone because I had hit bottom. My binge drinking had got extreme. I had been abandoned by my wife because she didn't know what the fuck to do with me. I dropped out of college, and I was completely unemployed. I had no income except for my pension coming in, which was $900 a month. In Hawaii, that's a joke. So my wife and family were not equipped to help me at all, is the ugly truth about that year. 2019, I turned 40. I found a sense of freedom and anarchy that I loved because not only did I not have all that shit on my plate, I didn't even have a home. I was living out in the wind, just me and my in my vehicle. It was it was too much fun. It was the wrong kind of fun. The bad part about that, I was homeless. I lost my storage unit, so I lost all those heirlooms that I had from my brother, from my father. Just anyway, everything was lost. I lost my mind too. Worst part, I lost my mind that year. I have a picture that I had as a background from that year when I turned 40. I was living on the beach in a little cul-de-sac at the bottom of a set of stairs that went right into the ocean. And I was happier than I think I ever been. But again, it was not healthy happiness. I was homeless. You know what I mean? Anyway, ugly truth, the freedom that I felt was dangerous. I almost walked away. By that, I mean just fuck it. Almost became one of those people that you see out there. It's just like whatever. So that's that's what I was like then. What happened? 2020, I turned 41. A veteran at the beach with his family found me, told me about a place called US Vets. So that was a good thing. Bad thing, a veteran at the beach with his family found me and told me about this place called US Vets. It ended up being not so great a thing. I'll explain that. If he had not found me, though, I think I may still be there today. Like, there's a good chance. 2021, I turned 42. I got my recovery back together because of US Vets, just a homeless shelter in Hawaii for veterans. I started getting my benefits back. I got up to 80% disability, which means that I can at least afford studio rent here in Hawaii. I did art classes while I was there because my mom taught me art. So yeah, I was teaching free art classes to the other veterans at the homeless shelter while I was there. And the bathrooms were horribly filthy, even the female ones. So I cleaned them. I found this long ass water hose and hooked it up to their sprinkler system. It was in there spraying the ceilings. It was poop in there. I'm not gonna get into it, but cleaned, went and bought cleaning products, came back and scrubbed. Those people couldn't believe it. They couldn't believe that somebody would do that. Like, so yeah, did that. And because of my performance while I was in that homeless shelter, I immediately graduated to the next program, which was called HUD Vash. What's HUD Vash? I got like some therapy and I got my independence back. But again, I was still binge drinking. I was still isolating to the point of near insanity. HUD Vash got me a Section 8 voucher, but the veteran version, they call it HUD Vash. So instead of just HUD, it's HUD Vash. So with that voucher, I was able to get a beautiful condo, wonderful place here in Hawaii. But again, I was just isolating. I was binge drinking. I was insane. I was agoraphobic now, and I was suicidal. And I had a nice railing right there to jump off of. Oh my God. I had a beautiful empty condo and a beautiful empty heart. Next year, 2023, I turned 44. I reunited with the love of my life, Miss Desiree Thomas. I don't even remember how it happened, but she called me out of the blue and it was on. That was it. But the bad thing, I had to say rest in peace to my hero, my rock, my beautiful mother, Miss Delta Thomas. She died that year. So I got my wife back, but I lost my mother. That's all I'll say about that. Uh, but the ugly truth, I was worrying about me all these years may have killed my mom. I worried that her having to worry about her baby all these years might have contributed to her having her heart attack. So that's what happened. What life is like now, uh, I finished detox and I found this place called A New Spiritual Family. I had a bottle in one hand on my way to drinking it, calling myself having an emergency bottle. I had just gotten out of detox and I had my cell phone in the other hand. And I had a choice to make. And I think I made the right choice. I called into Zoom, something I had never used before, and I found A New Spiritual Family just randomly. I just clicked what was there. And eventually they helped me find sobriety. And I even found a pink cloud after I hit my 90 days. But the bad part, sobriety came with a lot of new drama and side effects that I didn't expect. But that's life. That's life. You gotta take the good with the bad. But the ugly truth, good, bad, and the ugly. The ugly truth is that I was still muscling it, even though I found this place November 1st, and I was coming every day and following the guidelines. I wasn't following the steps. I wasn't following the principles. I was muscling it. So I was muscling it, but now I was just learning how to use different muscles. If that makes any sense. I'm rounding it. I'm just about done. What life is like now. I'm 46 years old. It's 2025, and I have a fresh, sober start. I have a chance to truly take control of my life for the first time ever because I'm not being driven or saved by a substance. But there's a flip side to every coin. Bad news. I have legs now. I can dance now, but I feel like the party is over. Ugly truth. New Year's resolutions only work if you work them, just like this program. So, in summary, now I'm gonna speak from my heart and put this shit away. I love all of you guys. Thank you all for being a part of my life. I really see everybody here as family, good or bad. I mean, I refuse to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm never giving up. I plan on coming here every day until maybe eventually I'm so old that I eventually am the one running the meeting. But yeah, you're not getting rid of me. You guys were the only ones who managed to figure out how to fix me. So now you're fucked. You're stuck with me. Thank you and aloha. And it's great to be sober. I have a lot to learn, but uh, I still got a lot of youth in me. I insist on learning it. I'm stubborn. I got an ego, but I'm gonna keep looking forward. I'm gonna keep looking towards the shore. I'm gonna keep swimming towards the shore. Strength, hope, and wisdom. That's all I got. Aloha. Thank you. I'm Antonio. I'm an alcoholic. And yeah, I'm starting to understand what it means to be grateful about that.